मुझसे, मिलने को है कोई कहीं अब तुझसे, ये रास्ता है कह रहा अब मुझसे, मिलने को है कोई कहीं अब तुझसे। दिल को है क्यों ये बेताबी, किससे मुलाकात होनी है, जिसका कब से अरमा था शायद वही बात होनी है।
यूं ही चला चल रही, यूं ही चला चल रही, जीवन गाड़ी है समय पहिया। आंसू की नदियां भी हैं, खुशियों की बगियां भी हैं, रास्ता सब तेरा तक है भैया।
यूं ही चला चल रही, यूं ही चला चल रही, कितनी हसीन है ये दुनिया। फूल सारे झमेले देख फूलों के मेले, बड़ी रंगीन है ये दुनिया। है ना ना, है ना ना, हे हे हे, देखो जिधर भी इन राहों में, रंग पिघलते हैं निगाहों में, ठंडी हवा है ठंडी छाँव है, दूर वो जाने किसका गाँव है। बादल ये कैसा छाया, दिल ये कहाँ ले आया, सपना ये क्या दिखलाया है मुझको।
हर सपना सच लगे, जो प्रेम अगन जले, जो राह तू चले अपने मन की, हर पल की सीख से।
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for this special webinar. You can join us on two platforms, Zoom or YouTube. Inika will share the YouTube link in the chat shortly, and you can join us from there as well. This webinar is a part of a unique series designed to celebrate Teach for India's 15 incredible years of leading with love. To mark this milestone, FIRCI has organized a 15 years, 15 webinar series, where each session is led by Teach for India alumni. Our 15 webinars will be covering three themes. First, preparing new teachers for the first year in the classroom. Second, exploring innovative practices in teaching and learning. And third, focusing on leadership and management in education to support school leaders. We have already had our first webinar of this series on the FIRCI Leaders Teacher Teaching Mela, and today we are excited to dive into our second webinar. So let's get started. To make your experience seamless and effortless, I'll take you through some of the icons that you can use during the webinar to access Zoom. First, you can use the mic button. It's in the down below, given in the bar. You can use this mic button to unmute yourself and share your thoughts and views during the webinar. Second, is the video button that is next to the mic button. You can use that to switch on your videos. We would recommend you to switch on your videos throughout the webinar. Third is the chat box button. You can open the chat window by clicking on the chat button. It's near to the right of your hand. You can put in your thoughts, your questions during the webinar in the chat window by using the chat button. Okay, so welcome to the webinar, Pedagogical Practices of for Student Agency. Here we will see Malvika sharing her insights about innovative classroom practices that promote student agency, helping us reimagine student-centered learning. Before we start, here are some norms for you. We encourage you to keep your camera on for a more interactive session. Keeping cameras on are highly motivating for our speakers and all of us to provide you effective learning experience. Please mute your mic when you are not speaking to reduce background noise and avoid disturbance. Please use the chat box for questions, share your thoughts and answer, and raise your hand if you would like to speak. Last, is active participation. We invite you to participate fully, take notes, and share your insights. Now, let's meet our speaker, Malvika. We are really excited to have her here with us to facilitate today's space. Malvika was a Teach for India Fellow in 2019. She has been with Involve for over 3 years, taking on different roles in operations and design. She is also part of Sarthi Collective, working on advocacy for student agency. With that, I'll now hand it over to Malvika, where we are looking forward to the meaningful session. Thank you, Malvika, for joining us.
Hi, can everyone hear me? If you can quickly give a thumbs up. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So I thank you for that introduction. I was a 2019 fellow from Teach for India. And before we dive into the session, I would just want to give a glimpse of what my experience in my classroom has been like. I think at any point, if you enter my classroom, you would see desks arranged in a very weird way. You would see students who would not be sitting in their seats all the time, who would be out of their seats exploring different things. And you would also see students engaged in very different things. You would see two students maybe doing some clay modeling. You would see few students working on art, few students, expressing through their writing. And this was all, though I didn't know what student agency was, I always, in my classroom, I always had that feeling that we are all equal. I was very comfortable going to my students and saying, I don't know how to do origami. Can you teach me? You seem to be experts. And I know how my students would teach me so patiently. And when I make mistakes, they would very patiently, take my origami, correct my mistakes, and give me the end product. And I had equal accountability with my students. So we had a rule that we would not raise our voice in the classroom, but I am also human. I have so many emotions. So every time I would raise my voice, my students would be like, Didi, punishment for 5 minutes, you have to wait outside till you calm down. So that is, and these are fifth graders that we had. And what it really helped me do is remove that barrier ki I am an educator, I should know everything, I should be right all the time, and help me be more human with my children. And it also gave them a sense that this is our classroom. I have equal accountability of what happens. I have equal accountability of my learning. And this is, I think, this was how my stint with student agency started. And then I joined Involve, where we have the vision of building agency, restoring agency in students. And I explored the beauty of what it can lead to. And that is why I think I'm here to share our learnings from the work we do with all of you. So really excited to start. Let me quickly share my screen. Yeah, can you all see my screen? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Technical glitches, guys. Yeah. So I think the check-in is already done. And a norm that, I would really want you all to uphold this question. Anything that you want to understand more about, or something that you don't agree with, or something that you have seen happen differently. And I hope that components of agency come alive in this webinar, where I will be merely a facilitator and we will be learning from each other's experience and each other's context. So really excited to start, because I have so much that I want to learn from all of you. Great. So the big question, right? This is something that we at Involve have, and me as an individual, I'm also trying to figure out what is agency. I think these days it is a buzzword in LinkedIn, and this is something that everyone has stumbled upon. Before, it would be leadership skills, but now we know there is something more fundamental that we have to focus on, and that is agency, right? So on the screen, I have put two definitions. Basically, while you're reading that, I'll quickly summarize. Agency would refer to an individual's capacity to act and make choices, and these choices have to be purposeful choices, right? Where they have free will, they can exercise their free will, and also believe that my decisions will impact the society that I live in, right? It is one thing to give voice to students where you are telling them, you are free to express your voice. But if they believe that my voice will not have any impact, they're just asking for the sake of asking, obviously there is no power to that voice that people exercise, right? So they should have the power to shape the society that they live in, right? It also emphasizes the idea that students have the power to make choices. Individuals have the power to make choices that are not solely determined by the constraints or the culture that they are part of, right? That are not solely defined by their context. Can they come beyond these constraints and exercise their choice and voice? This is basically what agency for anyone would mean, right? It means that they have the power to originate action. They are not stagnant, they are taking action of where they want their life to go. And I think last year I attended a conference a webinar by an organization known as Grip Tape. And the way they put it really made sense to me. It is where you are on the driving seat of your life, right? One is you have the skills to navigate, you have the skills to drive the car. Second, you know where you want to take the car, right? You have a goal. And third one, you have all the necessary support to help you reach that destination while you are still on the driving seat, while you are still the person taking the final action, right? And this is something that really helped me picture agency in a way that I understand. And I do want to stress that agency is a very subjective thing, it depends on context. An action that would define agency maybe in the US, in the UK, may not necessarily define agency in India. It is a very contextual concept, but there are a few things that are very core to a person having agency, and that is what we will explore in this webinar. Are you all with me so far? If you could just put something in the chat to let me know, like 0 to 5, how is the pace? 5 would mean you're going too fast. 3 would mean, the pace is good. 0 would mean like, it is going too slow. So 0 to 5. Okay. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you so much for, interacting like this. That really helps me decide, like, helps me as a facilitator as well. Right. So now it is time for us to see, because again, I said agency is a very subjective, very personal concept. So I want you to think of your story of agency, right? You know what agency would mean. It is a place where you're taking decisions, exercising your choice in a purposeful manner, in a way that will that has the ability to shape the society around you. So now think of a time when you exercised agency. What was the impact of that action? What was the feeling like when you saw the impact of your action? What was the feeling associated with that? Right? We can take 2 minutes to think about this. Write it down if you want. If you are comfortable, you can share it on the chat. It could be something small. It could be something that happened 10 years ago. It could be something that happened yesterday. Right? So take 2 minutes, think about it. I will continue again at 5:19. Oh, I can share the example again. Again, this is not my definition. It was from a webinar of Grip Tape. and I really use it to explain agency to everyone. So it is where you are on the driving seat of your life, right? Where you are the driver, you decide the destination, but you also are equipped with the skills to drive, right? You are not just put into a car where people are telling, okay, drive. You are equipped with the skills to reach your destination, and you decide the pace at which you want to reach, but you also have the support of the ecosystem that will help you reach your destination. Wow, Pooja, that is, I think I really resonate with that. I myself completed dentistry. I finished my bachelor's in dentistry, but I chose to work with education. And I don't have a single ounce of regret. So I completely resonate with what you're saying. Okay, we have 1 minute more. Shavana, that is so nice, right? Especially in remote areas, it's not something where people have access to quality education. So amazing that your story of agency led to this. Okay, would any one person want to come off mute and share your story? Again, there is no compulsion. I can wait for 5 seconds, and if we don't get anyone, we can move on. Okay, so you always have access to chat, and remember, I'm merely a facilitator. We will learn from each other. So I would encourage everyone to share your stories, come off mute whenever possible, because the chat may not do justice to your story. But we will have such opportunity. Oh, we have, I think, Sadaf. Am I
Yeah.
saying it right?
Yes. It's Sadaf Sheikh.
Okay, Sadaf. Yes.
Yeah.
Please do share.
See, my parents wanted to me to become a doctor, but I chose that education profession, and I chose no. I want to become a teacher, and now I'm proud of it because I think that teaching is a profession who creates other professions, and I don't think कि मतलब जितनी respect इस profession में वो किसी और profession में है, which I'm always looking forward for it, and the challenges which we are dealing every now and then. It is not that we become a teacher, so we are a overall, package. Every day, every single minute, we are learning something new. So that is very grateful for me.
Amazing. And can you tell me how did it feel, Sadaf, when you took that decision to impact your life like this and also impact society? How did that feel?
Yeah, see, I worked in three institutions, and right now where I am in, that is in Anjuman, Bashi. So here I'm learning a lot. A lot means a lot, and the principal ma'am is also giving me an opportunity so that I can grow myself, which I was looking forward for it. So I'm happy. I am happy. I'm satisfied. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I can quickly share my story of lack of agency, I can say. As a child growing up, I was the youngest one in the family. So I was the one although I come from a very privileged background, I was the one who was told what is to be done because I was too young to take decisions of my own. And I think when I was thrown into the adult life, I was really lost. I rarely had opinions of my own. If you ask me, did you think this movie was good? I'll wait for someone else to answer before I gave my own opinion. And I was able to, finally practice exercising decision making, practice exercising autonomy, which are big components of agency, right? That is something that I lacked. And this again reinforced the importance of students having agency from the very beginning. So that when they become adults, they are not just left hanging on their own. Like, they are prepared and well equipped. So, by you shared your story of agency, I shared my story of lack of agency so that we understand why it is important. Great. So, can you give me a thumbs up if you all got a chance to reflect on your story of agency? I'm going to wait for 5 seconds. Okay, we have some things on the chat. Reshma, that seems like an amazing journey. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I have a few thumbs ups coming. Great. I am going to move because I'm also trying to rush everything because we have some work time at the end of it. That is where you will contextualize all these learnings to your classroom, your institution. Yeah, so that is why I'm trying to be as much on time as possible. Yeah. Pratibha, if you could share the link for Padlet. Now we know what agency means, right? Now think of your classroom if you are an educator, or think of your school or institutions that you're working for currently. What would this definition mean in a classroom for students? What would it look like, right? I think the link of Padlet is shared. I also understand that not everyone will be comfortable using Padlet. So you can also put your responses in the chat and we can copy paste it on Padlet, right? Let me stop sharing. Okay, let's see if we have any responses. Like to be able to type on the Padlet, you can double click anywhere or you can just click on the plus. Okay, and try to be as descriptive with your answer as possible because we have seen what agency would mean for anyone in general. But if you wanted to bring that definition into a classroom, what would that mean? Students being active agents of their own learning, amazing. Having choices, spaces to express, right? Exactly. Active learning, okay. Okay, I'm going to wait for maybe 1 more minute. My students are able to decide what they want to learn and then take actions to learn it themselves. That is the dream. I think I still don't have it. If my manager will come and ask me, what do you want to learn? Where do you want to grow? I still struggle. So to have it in third grade is amazing. Opportunity to make choices, experiential learning, freedom to share, so basic yet so important. Creating spaces to have learners access their choice of learnings and enabling them to be in charge of their learning. Yes. Okay. Providing learners with a space to go against the system, question the system. Yes, not so easy, but we see that you have put it out there. Okay, amazing. Co-construction of learning. I'm getting some beautiful answers, guys. Please go, keep going at it. And you can also see what others have typed. Again, remember, I'm merely a facilitator. We will be learning from each other. So if you like someone's answer, please, you can go maybe add a comment. You can put a like if you really like someone's answer, something that you resonate with. Yeah, just interact with each other as much as possible. Great. All right, I will stop sharing now. Does anyone want to share? Come off mute and maybe one person can share. Like, what would it mean in a classroom according to you? Okay, I see a lot of responses on the chat as well.
So I think in a classroom, what agency feels like to me or student agency feels like to me is when the learning is student driven and merely facilitated or aided by the teacher. Today, a lot of the learning that's happening in my classroom is spoon fed or teacher driven, where I decide their syllabus, I decide how they will learn, what they will learn. And I really want to change this narrative because okay, I'm a fellow, which means I'm here for 2 years. At the end of 2 years, I'll be gone. The next person who comes along may not have these desires, they may have a completely different mindset. And that should not affect the students' learning. They should be able to go forward with their own learning on their own. And really, they should enjoy their own learning.
Thank you so much, Atri. Am I saying it right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and thank you. I think the first step as an educator to enable agency in your classroom would be to start with reflection, right? Start with reflecting, saying, where am I in this journey? Am I just beginning? Am I already there? So kudos to you for just thinking about where you are and where do you want to reach. Really appreciate that. Great. Just let me share screen again. So there is a lot of literature on what student agency is. Again, the literature is very varied, right? There are so many things about student agency, so much research that is coming up. But when we were able to summarize this, a few things, a few characteristics of students having agency was reflected by these 4 points, right? One was setting advantageous goals. Are they able to decide where do they want to go? Initiating action towards those goals. We all know we have so many dreams, but very few of us actually take that first step to achieve that dream, right? Reflecting on and regulating progress towards those goals, right? Am I constantly reflecting on how far am I? How am I feeling about this? Is this something I still want to do, right? And am I willing to change course? And an underlying mindset for all of this is a belief in self-efficacy, believing that I can, right? That is the most fundamental aspect of mindset for student agency. And at Involve, we were able to summarize it into a simpler framework, that is dream. A child should be able to dream, should be able to design and do. So what does this mean? So when we say a child should be able to dream, to be able to dream, you need to have exposure to possibilities and opportunities. What is out there? What do I want to become? You want to have information to about the choices that you're making, right? Because it has to be a purposeful choice, right? And while you know what is out there, something that most of us lack is what is in me. Like, what do I want to do? What are my strengths? What am I feeling about this? How am I feeling, right? So self-awareness is also a big part of dream, right? All of these things will ensure that our children are dreaming big. Our children are dreaming about what they want to be and not what someone else wants them to be, right? Next, coming to design. Now you have a dream. Design is where you're setting the pathway for that dream, right? Where you are setting goals and outcomes towards the desired dreams. Okay, if I want to, for example, if I want to be a teacher in 10 years, what do I have to do? Right? You are identifying or creating opportunities towards those dreams. There is a webinar, there is a career awareness session. Can I go there? Right? And assessing progress towards those goals regularly. In 2 years, I said that I would be studying this, but am I truly on the right path? So once you have a pathway of how you will reach your dream, the next thing to do is act, right? That is where you do. You act on your goals mindfully, you track progress, and most of all, you don't give up, you stay resilient. Does this mean that in your life you have one dream, you design one pathway, and you act towards that one goal? What do you think of this framework? Anyone wants to share in the chat, or just coming off mute and sharing? What is your understanding of this framework? Or if you have any questions about this as well, I'm happy to share.
Malvika, I have a question.
Yes.
The point about dream and do is kind of really clear to me. But at a student level, can you give me an actual example of how design would work? As in, how is the child or the student designing outcomes or setting goals for himself or herself? Can you just explain that part a bit more?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you for that question. So, for example, if we look at our program at Involve, which is peer teaching, our students will set the goal key. I want to be able to do 3-digit subtraction by the end of this week, right? Then they will sit and think about, okay, if I want to do 3-digit subtraction, what is something that I have to learn before? And I'm really simplifying this example, right? So maybe they'll say, I have to learn 2-digit subtraction, I have to do 2-digit subtraction with carry, then I'll be able to comfortably do 3-digit subtraction. And while they're practicing the other levels, they are constantly checking, do I know, what is do I know if, like, they keep checking if I know 2-digit subtraction. They'll go to their friend and ask, can you give me a problem for 2-digit subtraction, just to check if I know it, right? And they will also set goals saying, I will practice 1 hour after my class, right, to be able to do this. When they are not able to do two digit subtraction, they will not give up, they will be resilient, and they will be tracking progress. Am I on track? If I have to learn this by Friday, by Wednesday I should at least know about 2-digit subtraction. Am I on track? So this is a very simplified example. I would also request people to share any other examples that help them understand this framework better. Yes, hello, Isa. We do have examples or the mindsets that we need to build for agency. I will be taking that in the next slide. And if in the next slide it doesn't get answered, please do reply in the chat so that I can explain it better. Yeah. Okay, does anyone have any example that help them make sense of this framework? Your name says Zoom user, so if you could start by introducing yourself.
Sorry.
No problem.
I am just doing multitasking, so was unable to rename myself. I'm Dr.
You
Lata.
had done that.
So I am also working towards, so right now our classrooms are where my teachers decide everything. So it is teacher centric. The teacher decides, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do, this is how you're going to learn. I am trying to do it as a pilot project where I want to move towards student centric and student agency. So my question, I'm not giving an example. I just had a question. Like you said, you give an example of the children being, okay, I will be able to do 3-digit subtraction. I need to, be able to do that, either I need to do a 2-digit or a 1-digit subtraction, or I should know the concept of subtraction. What does subtraction mean? So my question is, in a class of 50 or in a class of 60, will all my kids be at the same level? So the current scenario that I am in, if I try to introduce this in a classroom, there may be about 10, 15 kids. So that's barely not even 25% of my classroom who may be able to do this. So my question is, how do you translate it to the entire classroom scenario where we empower and enable each child to be able to do this? So I don't know if my question is relevant.
No, it is definitely, because I also had 50 students at one point in my class, so I completely understand. If you could share your name, I'm sorry.
I am Dr. Lata. 1 second, let me go to the participants and change my
Thank
name.
you, Dr. Lata, for that question. Zuleika, do you have an answer for that question, or do you have
No,
another
I just
question?
wanted to share an example of student engagement that we do in our school. We had done this experiment wherein the class was divided into different groups and the students were asked to select a topic of their own. And that group used to prepare the topic, using PPTs or teaching aids, and they would come and present in front of the entire class. So every group of students was presenting a topic of their choice. So I just wanted to ask, is this can be called as a student agency?
Yeah, it does address a big part of it, which is student choice, right?
Yeah.
So I would say there are components of agency that are coming alive, but when we zoom out and see, there are more questions that we have to see. For example, are students aware of their current abilities, likes and dislikes, and then making that informed choice? And second, do they have a purpose linked to this choice that they are making? Do they understand the why behind it? Right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so if that is there, I would say that is student agency coming alive in your classroom.
Yes, yes, because the students are given the choice. They are free to select the topic of their choice. So they select the topic. They among themselves decide who will do which part. One person, two-person are doing the explanation. Two-person are playing the PPT. So it's a group work sort of.
Great. And I would also say that, again, I will bring it up in my strategies. Peer learning has proven to create that space where students can exercise agency more easily, or at least practice doing that. That will help enable them to, do it outside of their classroom as well. Pooja, again, do you have an answer to Lata's question, or?
Yeah, hi Malvika, hi Lata. So, what I understood from Lata's question was like, in a larger context, when it's a teacher centric, so how to bring agency in the class and then how to ensure that it is happening all around, right? That's the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, before answering her, I myself have one question. I can try to answer the question. So, in the do design and sorry, plan design, I forgot the first part. In the model you have shown right now. So, in the design part also, we have mentioned about assessing the progress, and the same thing is mentioned in the do part as well. So I was quite confused. Like, what I understood from this model is, suppose a student A in the class is quite inclined towards learning creative writing, for example. So the child knows, okay, this is something where I need to work upon, or I'm right. Quite curious. So this is the dream the child is having, and now dream or probably say goal. And in design part, the child is with the help of teacher is figuring out all the platforms and all the stages how the child can improve and work towards that, and what will be the success criteria towards ensuring that yes, I have met my target, and probably this is a good time to set up another goal. So considering that, and the child is constantly working on the goal at the end, and consistent feedback is being given by the peers or says teacher, and the child also self reflects ki yes, I can see my progress towards my goal. So this is what I understood in a way. I'm trying to address the query also. Just the part is like, in design and do part, both places I saw this assessment part. That is where I was little confused, or probably, yeah, if you can, I don't know, Lata, if I answered your question.
No, not
Yeah,
clearly. So my point was how to bring all the kids on board at the same level. That's one
yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah.
And the second part is like I, as a school leader or as a teacher, I
Mm-hmm.
know for grade three children, these are the learning objectives for the entire, for
Right,
any particular subject.
right, right, right.
How would my 7-year-old or 8-year-old know ki what
Mm-hmm.
is he supposed to learn or what is his learning objective for the whole year? Are you understanding my question,
I'm
Malvika?
totally
Yeah.
understanding.
So these
Yeah.
are the two things. One is
Mm-hmm.
how my child will set the learning objective for himself because he's a child. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
even know what is he supposed to know and not supposed to know.
Right,
So how
right.
does we to have guidance from our state board or whichever board we are following, where we
Mm-hmm.
have given clear guidance? Okay, third grade needs to know so much, fourth grade needs to know so much. So we
Mm-hmm.
as leaders or teachers are aware of that. How
Mm-hmm.
do we share that or share that awareness with my children? How will a 6, 7, 8 year old know about it? That is
Right,
one point.
right.
And second is to bring equilibrium to the entire classroom, where all my 60 kids are at the same level of whatever we are trying to do. That these were the two questions. You can address it any point during this seminar, Malika. I just
Yeah.
had these two things to go
Yeah,
about.
if
Thank you so much.
I can, yeah, if I can take just one more minute, if that is okay with the organizers,
Yeah,
I'll,
sure.
yeah, thank you. So probably, when you have an objective in mind, definitely there will be a lot of options which your teacher can use as a pedagogy of teaching. For example, I have to teach, I'll take the same example of creative writing. So teacher knows there is like audio, there is a visual, or probably there is an article, there is a teacher mentor text, which I can show. So agency also talks about giving choice and autonomy to the students. So probably, you give those options to the students where it is still the teacher is doing the work, but students choose. And when they choose the specific option out of all the models, then they take complete ownership of, working towards it. So that choice, if I'm not wrong, I mean, a younger child can definitely choose amongst, like, okay, I would want to watch YouTube video, but on the other hand, a child might say, no, on this context, I would want to read some book. So that is where multimodalities might come to the rescue at one point. And of course, teacher help would be needed because, as you correctly mentioned, these are young kids. And apart from that, co-constructing the success criteria. Okay, we want to learn today two's table. So what do you think? What will make our effort successful? And how can we learn? So, and giving options with manipulatives and asking them to make choices and just hearing out their voices. What is their say in that learning? How do you feel about that learning? All this thing brings a lot of fun learning and ownership in the students. So probably this is one tiny step with which the students can climb this ladder and eventually they will be there. Malvika can correct if I just
No,
I was
all of this makes sense, but I think, Lata, I want to start by saying all of your students will never be at the same level. And I think that is a reality that we all are aware of.
Yeah. So
But I would
if it is like we are at 10%, even if we are moving to 25, 35, so it's a gradual process.
correct.
So if that is where we take it as also, it's perfectly fine. Then we know we are in the right direction.
Correct. So, how I would put it out is, for example, in math, we know that all the students are not at the same level. So, even for skills like goal setting, decision making, not all children would have the same level of exposure. Like I shared my own story. So, I would say, I think, have your tools for monitoring where each student is at different components of agency, and then see what would be an improvement for them. And whatever goal I have set, that where I said that a student was able to set that goal of learning 3 digits, it came over a year of 1.5, over the course of 1.5 years, right? So what it took is constant modeling. And I really liked one point that Pooja said, where she says that, we have to learn, for example, students have learned two tables, okay, and they know what success for two tables look like. So in the next class, when you say, hey, we have to learn three ka table today, can you tell me what would the success criteria look like? The students might say, for me, success would be if I'm able to, tell three table without seeing. For others, it will be
Are you on mute? We couldn't hear you.
oh my
Was
God.
it only me?
Yes, I think no, I was on
Yes.
mute.
Oh,
Till where
sorry.
could you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yes. So till where could you hear me? So I was saying, when you ask students what success criteria looks like, when you have modeled out what success criteria for two tables looks like, they will be able to say, okay, this is what success criteria should look like. Then what would it look like for me? Is it being able to say 3 ones are 6, 3 2s are 6, 3 3s are 9 without seeing? Or is it for me to be able to write it without seeing? Or is it for me to be able to fill in the blanks whenever some number is missing? Right? So this will come with constant modeling. And as a teacher, if you are able to be vulnerable and say, today we were supposed to learn 5 table, but because of various reasons, I as a teacher couldn't do. When I'm tracking, I did not reach my goal. So tomorrow I will try to finish more. Right? So how are you modeling out having agency to students is also very important. Right? I hope that answers some of your questions. Right? And I know it is especially challenging with a bigger classroom, but I have seen that with the right processes, with the right grouping, with the right modeling out, it will be successful.
So, yeah. So, my only thing is I'm starting with this. So, it is a
Yeah.
slow journey. And initially, probably we may take it as small baby steps. And over a period of years, we will see where we want to go and how we go.
Exactly.
So,
And it
that's it.
is
Yeah.
a long, long journey.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Let me quickly present. Okay. Great. So now what are some mindsets that we have to build in students to be able to unlock their agency in the classroom? Because that is our locus of control. So first mindset is growth mindset, where students believe that they can change their intelligence and abilities through effort. Two, like I've mentioned, is self-efficacy. They have to believe that I can succeed if I try. If they think that none of this is possible, why even bother? The journey stops right there. Third one that is really important is a sense of belonging. If you are in an environment that will support you, that that is not that is giving you that safe space, we have seen that it is a huge factor in empowering our students. Then relevance, right? So any work they're doing, do they know how it is going to be useful to them? Do they know why they are engaging with this learning material? Are they able to contextualize their learning for themselves? That is something that is really important, right? uh, I will pause for a minute for you to just note down all of this if you need, because the next slide has a question related to this. Okay, I hope all of you had a chance to note this down. Now, in the chat box, if you could take any of the mindsets that we had mentioned and what you as an educator can do every day in a classroom to build that mindset in students. It can be any small action that you do to make students develop any of the four mindsets mentioned here. And you
Good
can
evening.
also, yes, I'm
Good
sorry,
evening.
someone was speaking.
Yes, ma'am. The mindset of the child is always a playful. When the teacher enters the class, she has to do some energizer or ice break to divert the child towards her so that she can start the subject, whether it is science, social, or anything else.
And which mindset are we building here among the four with this action?
It is sense of belonging, I think.
Got it. So when they feel like, this is a space that I enjoy in, and they are more likely to want to learn and make it more purposeful for themselves. Thank you, Hasina. Jayashri, do you want to say something?
Uh, is that me? I don't know. I cannot see myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw you were on unmute.
Yeah. No, hello, I'm Jayashri Mehta, and I just wanted to say what I could do also is probably give them a feedback where I put in more descriptive praise and praise their effort wherever I see that effort is being put in, because I feel that becomes an intangible which doesn't get noticed and what should I say? Not, it doesn't get noticed and therefore does not get the value. Do you? Yeah. So I thought by praising their effort and seeing those little tiny changes, positive changes, and positive steps they are taking, if I could bring that to their attention instead of just focusing on what they could not do, would help them build their growth mindset.
Correct. And I think this would also do wonders for their self-efficacy, that feeling of self-efficacy that we're trying to build in them. I'm also seeing wonderful responses in the chat. So again, I stress, feel free to react to each other's messages. Take 2 minutes to go through it. And yeah, we can again learn from each other. Okay, to create a sense of belonging, you can greet each student. I think I've seen so many videos of how happy that makes children come into classroom when they have their own personalized greeting with the educator, right? Allowing students to speak their mind, right? And being a patient listener, definitely when they know that my voice has value here, it will increase their sense of belonging. Great. Can I move on to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just waiting for a few more thumbs up. Meanwhile, please do read others' responses on the chat. Okay, great. Okay. So now, of course, there are so many interventions that you can have in your classroom to support this. But I have really picked out very simple interventions that we can do in our classroom consistently to help children build some skills that will help them practice exercising their agency, right? Again, like anything else, this is something that we have to build by practice. Before I go to that, can you put in the chat box for the mindsets that I've mentioned here? What are some skills that you see coming alive for students to exercise their agency? For example, I would say decision making is a very important skill that students should have, like strong informed decision making skill. So can you put in the chat any other decision making skill that you think they should have to be able to, build their agency? Resilience, yes. Leadership quality, I would push you to elaborate what are these qualities that you mean. Communication skills, yes. Critical thinking, collaboration, teamwork, okay, problem solving. I can see coordination or teamwork, problem solving, reasoning. Yes, to be able to make informed choices, you should be able to reason. You would need to have logical reasoning. Praise effort, not just talent. I do want to say that is a great strategy for building growth mindset in students. When you're praising effort, that encourages them to not look at only the outcome but focus on the process to get to that outcome. Planning goals is very effective. That is something I still struggle with. If you ask me where do I want to be in 5 years, I don't know, guys. So yeah, that is very important, and that is something we have to build from a very young age, right? Courage is also very important. All of your stories of agency had such a huge component of courage in them, right? Great. So we have some great responses. Now I'm looking at a few very simple interventions that if you do will definitely enhance these skills that we talked about in our students, right? Reflection is also a very important skill that comes up. So first one is building autonomy, right? This is how do you build autonomy in students, right? Utilize morning meetings and closing circles. So this is where students set goals for themselves, and in the morning meetings they will set goals for themselves, and in the closing circle they reflect on those goals that are set. Again, Lata, just saying, in my classroom how I started this was, I used to give something known as kindness stars to students. Whenever they did act of kindness for other students, the other students can reward them with kindness stars. So initially, all, and those were attached to different rewards. So I was like, if you get 10 kindness stars by end of the week, you can read a storybook or anything. And all of the morning circles would have, I will get 3 kindness stars today. And at the end of the day, they will be like, Didi, I got 5. So I actually exceeded my goal. So then I'm like, maybe you should set more challenging goals. So this is how they practiced it, and this is then it got extended to other aspects of academics and everything, right? This is a simple way to start. Then coming to always giving students some form of choice in learning. Again, we cannot tell a first standard child, this is the learning objective we want, so how do you want to learn this? Of course they don't have the skills to reduce, but I mean skills to make that choice. But can we create these choices for them that are age appropriate so that they practice making informed choices? It can be as simple as before starting the class, you can ask them, hey, do you want a fun activity or do you want to close your eyes and meditate to calm yourself before the class starts? Right? So again, this is something where they learn group dynamics, where they learn to deal with different choices of others, right? There are so many skills that they learn with this simple act. It can be, do you want to use ice cream sticks to learn addition, or do you want to do it in your notebook, right? And we have seen children struggle with those choices, but with practice, they are able to understand what they like and make that choice. Are you all with me so far? Any questions that I can answer at this point? Or any example or anecdote that you want to share where these methods have worked? I'm going to wait for 5 seconds again.
So Malvika, I'll share something that we noticed with pre-primary children. Okay, so one normally thinks that in a pre-primary classroom, choices won't work, but in reality, they do. So when we do free play, we have different corners with different kinds of toys, and we allow children to automatically go towards the corner that they like, right? And over a period of time, you start realizing that children are actually exercising their choice, and that I think is a great way to allow little children to kind of discover themselves in a classroom.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Vijay Lakshmi. That gives a lot of hope for if such young children are able to build it with practice. The older children also, will really benefit with such interventions. Freedom to choose study partners, closing circles works wonders. Thank you for reinforcing that, Pooja. Do you want to share one example or any instance that reinforce this for you?
Uh, yeah, so we always have the circle times and closing circles. And I think towards the closing circle, when we ask the students what worked really well for you today and what is that something you would want to do differently. So all the children in the class, like, they feel so valued when they are given that chance to speak, like as an exit ticket also, if we ask them. So they also feel like, my teacher cares for me and I am being heard. And when the teacher also responds like by sharing, no problem if this so and so thing has happened, then tomorrow you can bring about a change, or probably, tomorrow you can do something better, I will help you, and all those things. So all the four things which you mentioned, somewhere or the other, closing circle gives us a very good opportunity to actually do something different with the children apart from the regular curriculum, because that's also very important.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. Great. So I think you had enough time to think about these two interventions. Next one is creating peer learning spaces. This is what the organization that I work for primarily focuses on. And I'll also show you a small video from there. What it does is learning from each other's experience. So, what we have to understand is our children have a wealth of experience from outside the classroom, from the context that they come in, right? And we have to give children space to share those experience and help other students learn from each other's experience, right? And mentoring and support. For this, I want to give a very adorable example and very powerful example. So we actually started peer teaching with our fifth graders who used to teach third graders, and that is a video that I have here. And that in the area that we work in, that is a lot of migrant populations, right? So we primarily teach in Kannada, but there are students who don't know even the alphabet of Kannada, right? And what happened was this student put in the effort to learn little Hindi so that she could teach her learner in Hindi. Because what she saw was when she was teaching in Kannada, the learner did not participate at all and was very lost, very low on self confidence, right? And so what she did was she gave, like, we have 5 people in a group, she gave other students some tasks and she focused on teaching her in Hindi, right? And this also gives a lot of closed group personal attention to students. So whether you're doing cross grade peer groups or whether you're doing same grade peer groups inside the classroom, I cannot stress to you the safe space that it gives students to share with each other and learn from each other, right? And like I would like to say, no one knows what it's like to be a child at this moment than children themselves, because we were not children in 2024, and it's a completely different experience, and only a child will be able to relate to another child on this experience. So let me quickly show the video. Just give me a second. Meanwhile, you can share your thoughts on this in the chat box. So here, oh, sorry, pardon. Okay, were you all able to see the video? Yeah. So just giving context, you can see that the other children are patiently waiting while this student learns. And there is no judgment, there is no making fun. This is all possible because for every peer session, we set norms. And while you are setting peer sessions in your classrooms, it is very important to set norms for positive behavior, right? So that is something that I would want to draw caution on. But we have seen that it works wonders on children's sense of belonging and also their growth mindset and self efficacy, right? Okay. Okay, great. Now, going to the next one, that is creating a safe space. I think we've already covered it with morning and closing circle. So here, mainly, like I said, give them space to question and hold you accountable, right? Uh, be human in front of them and make sure that that barrier is that power dynamic and that barrier does not exist, and there is equal accountability between students and educators. Creating safe space for feedback. Again, for growth mindset, it is very important to give very specific feedback, right? So rather than saying, oh, this drawing looks very good, you should be able to say, hey, I really like the color schemes that you have used, right? And I think as educators, it is very important for us to model out how to receive feedback. Even as adults, when we get feedback, sometimes we tend to take it negatively. But when your students give you a constructive criticism, how are you modeling it out? How do you show them how to receive feedback and what to do with it, right? Creating a safe space for making and learning from mistakes. Why do you think this is important? Anyone? You can also use the chat. I will wait for 5 seconds before I share this. Okay, it builds
I think
resilience.
so. It is very
Yes,
important to uh, we need to give them a space to learn, and if they are while learning, if they are making mistakes, it's us to tell them that here they are making a mistake, so that they will overcome that mistakes and they can improvise themselves, and they will come up with a good solution for anything, or even for themselves also.
Great, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Saima. And
One
as
thing I just want to share.
yes, yes.
Actually, now what I do in my class, I have one feedback sheet where the teachers, where we have all the students' name, and that period wise we take a feedback from teachers. Even the student also give a feedbacks to their classmates. Every week we have that this feedback section where everybody writes their feedbacks, and I go through those feedback every week. And on Monday it was a day when we go through all those feedbacks, and we ask them that if they have done any mistake, I separately call them, and if it is not possible to inform in front of everybody, I call them separately and I address to them that these are the mistakes what they did. If they have done it, then how they can correct it. I take it from them only, and I ask them that whether it is correct or not. Whatever they are doing, is it correct? And if it is not correct, how the other people will think or feel if they are doing like that. So in this way, I have seen certain changes in our students. So if they are making mistake, it's okay. We are there to correct them.
Thank you so much, Saima. And as educators, it is also important to let students know that teachers can also make mistakes. It is important to be vulnerable in front of them, saying, hey, I'm not perfect. I am also improving myself, and so can you, right? So that is one, I think, one message that I would have for all the educators. And like you said, it builds resilience, it builds growth mindset in students, and also problem solving skills, right? And because I'm stressing on this, because I've seen far too many teachers who are eagerly waiting to correct their students before they have a chance to make that mistake and learn from it, right? So I would say be patient, let them make mistakes and be there for them when they fall, and then show them the right path, right? Great. Now coming to our work time again, so there are two options that you have. If you are familiar with breakout rooms, and if you really like group discussions, I would say go to a breakout room. But if you have more questions and you're not comfortable in breakout room, you can stay in the main room. For the first 10 minutes, think about inputs required for each intervention. I hope you have noted it down. Challenges that might arise with each intervention, and this is where I want to bring Lata's for a point forward. In a class of 50 students, what are some things that can go wrong when you do this, right? But if the intervention is successful, what will it look like? By intervention, I mean things like morning circle, giving feedback. These are what I mean by intervention. Once you are done with that discussion, or once you are done thinking about it, in the next 5 minutes, what you will do is take one step that you want to take as an educator and plan out how will you implement it. Again, like we stressed, it cannot be done in one day. So what are those gradual steps that you will take to make this possible? And remember the challenges that you discussed previously. How would you mitigate those challenges? How will you be prepared to handle those challenges, right? Pratibha, will you be creating breakout rooms or should I?
Deepika will be creating it, Malvika.
Okay.
Just give us 2 minutes.
I'll create. Yeah. How many rooms do you want?
Would I think around 10 be too much? I don't know. I'm just asking technologically, logistically.
It should be fine, Malvika.
Yeah. So 10, again, this is, you will be able to choose the breakout room that you want. Make sure that there are not a lot of people in a breakout room. If you want to stay in the main room, that is also okay. I will be here to answer your questions and guide you through this. Right? Again, I don't know everything, so we can brainstorm this. All right. Any questions on the work time?
Yeah, Malvika, I have a question. When you said think about inputs required for each intervention, so we have to think of, all the interventions. I didn't know. And then the second part is think of one intervention. So I'm a bit confused there.
So when you're discussing in the group, you can discuss all the interventions. In the interest of time, if you are not able to, discuss more interventions, pick at least 3 interventions that you will discuss. What would be the input? It could be worksheets, it could be teacher planning time. So what are some inputs that you will need to make it successful? And what are some challenges that might arise? Then you think about your classroom and the needs of your classroom, and then create one intervention. Choose one intervention that you think will work for your classroom.
All right, fine. Thank you. And after 10 minutes, will you just kind of sound us so that?
Yeah, I will put a message in the group.
Dear teachers, I have something to add here. As you will be joining the breakout room, please make sure after the breakout room, you join us back in the main room. We will be sharing the link of feedback form later, by which you will also be able to access your certificate. So make sure that you join us after the breakout room. There should be an option of breakout room on your screen. If you are joining from phone, swipe right or left to join.
Can I join any breakout room? It's saying, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, you can join any breakout.
But ensure that there aren't too many people in a breakout room.
Okay, we can see the number.
Yeah. And for people who choose to stay in the main room, please feel free to ask me any questions that you have.
Shabana ma'am, at the taskbar, you must be seeing 4 boxes. Under that, breakout room must be written. You just click on that and you'll get options to join the breakout room.
Malvika, I have just have one doubt. We have to go in a breakout room and there we have to discuss about our intervention individually for us or for that entire group.
So the first 10 minutes would be discussion. If you go to the breakout room, if you choose to stay here, you can just think about it yourself. The next 5 minutes would be individual work time where you are planning for your classroom.
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Hello,
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. Just I want to share an intervention of my class, 8th. I'm handling. Can I, ma'am?
Yes, please.
I'm handling this 8th standard social teacher plus English teacher. I am to my 8th standard students. I have an intervention. The behavior of the children nowadays is completely different. They won't stick to the values what we will say and what the parents will say. So once I tried to outcome from them, but I failed, ma'am. Once I failed, but afterwards I succeeded. What is the main thing? Why the boy is behaving in this way? Why he is not addressing the academic properly? When he was in previous class, he was well and fine. But now what happened? So regarding my experience and I have counseling of him, I came to know that because of the behavior at home of his mother and grandmother, the boy has become like that. If at all the situations are like this, how to handle it, ma'am?
I think firstly, what would really help is if you um, are able to set the values with students. Because again, students know, of course, you will have to guide them through the process. But if you set norms and values of the class that you're setting with the students, they know what is important for them, especially 8th grade, right? So that is one. Second, one saying that is there is agency, especially in India, cannot be individual agency. It has to be collective agency, where teacher agency, agency of the parents, everything is a factor. So I would say, how would you leverage and ensure that parents are modeling out exercising of agency to the student? Then they are able to, solve it together as a team, where everyone has, in that team, everyone has some respect for each other, for each other's values, and this is something that is a great example for the student. But I would say including students in their, in their value setting would actually make them believe that it is not only what Hasina ma'am has said, it is something that we all have agreed to, right? And having things like classroom contract, saying if you all agree to this, you sign. But once you sign, you remember we are all adhering to this. And if we don't, what is the consequence we will set? If we do, what is the reward that you want to set, right? So that really helps.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes. But the boy is so shyful that he is unable to come out from that. And whenever I speak to him, he gives a smile and he says everything is okay. But something is lacking behind him. That I want to know. He's a very brilliant student, ma'am. But suddenly he has become like that and full struggling to academic. I see that his behavior also changed a lot. Then when I went and spoke to their parents about it, they said no, nothing, everything, खाना पानी सब कुछ तो दे रहे हैं हम लोग, और क्या करना है उसको, वो नहीं पढ़ रहा है, उसको इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. I said interest will come when you also will put some efforts. You will just put him into one room and say him to read. Come on, read. Everything is there only. Why you will come out? Don't watch TV. And when we are doing the same thing, the children also will do the same. Na? I
Correct.
prefer the same thing for the parents also. Of course, you are working lady. I know that everything burden is on your hand, but you have to look after his future also, na. He's in future what he wants to become. You are not giving a chance to speak. You say that you don't have time for him. That is what he is becoming like arrogant nowadays. So I'm
I think,
unable to
yeah,
handle
I
this
think it
man.
is also that age where they are developing their sense of personal identity. They are seeing, okay, where do I belong here? And at that time, I think patience and safe space has really made an effort when I was working with adolescent children. And one
Yes.
thing that we have seen is when everyone stops believing in the child, but even having one individual who will believe in them and say, I believe you can do it, will
Yes.
affect their mindset of self efficacy. So that is something that I have seen. But again, you know your context better. So I really hope if someone else has anything to add. Zuleka, do you
Yeah,
have?
yeah. To Hasina, what she was saying, I just wanted to add that, as you rightly said, this is a age where the child is going through. He's entering, already entered adolescence. So here he himself is going through a lot of conflicts, and family is another issue. So I think, mentoring will really help. What we did in our school, we also had some problematic, issues like that. I will not say problematic children, but the circumstances are what, make the children go through all these things. So we used to have one-to-one mentorship program. In our school, what we had done, there was one teacher and she would select 4 5 such children. Teachers are the ones who are very close to the children, and they notice all these things, like what the child was, as you are saying, he was very good earlier, but now this year you are finding him little different, or there are a lot of changes. So these particular teacher mentors these 4 5 children, and like she's like a mother to the child. The children are very free and they share a lot of things what they are going through. They open their mind. Normally they don't share everything with everybody, but with this particular teacher they share their things, and that has really helped us. And once they share it, as you said, talking to parents also, they're not listening again. You also need to give more time to the parents. Keep on talking to them. If you have a counselor, you can arrange meeting with the counselor, and it will not come very easily. You have to keep on doing it again and again. Consistency is the key word here. If you keep on doing it again, I'm sure you'll get the results, because we have already done such things in the past, and we have seen that there was result. There was a lot of change in that particular boy. Even we had a boy like this in 7th standard. He was very naughty, very arrogant, and like the child you're talking about does not have that many problems, but this particular boy had a lot of problems. But with one-to-one mentoring, the child was completely reformed. He was a completely changed boy, and he had become completely different. So I feel you will have to give more time, and you need to be patient. You will not get the results so quickly. You will have to keep on doing the same thing again and again, and eventually you will see the results. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're right. But what is the main thing that he wants to be in the school only? When the school bell rings, he has to go home. He says that why I should go home. That is the
Yeah.
question. And he loves his mother so much that his mother is not having a time for him to speak for 5 minutes also. What has
Yeah. No,
happened
no.
with him?
I
You
think you
need
have
to.
identified the problem, and
Yes,
that is
ma'am.
the first step. I think then the solution would be very obvious as well, is where you have to work with parents. And like
Yes.
Zuleka said, it is a very consistent and very patient thing that you have to do. Meanwhile, I
Yes.
would say identify any elder brother, elder siblings, or elder student in the class that would also help guide them. Because, like I said, children know what it is like to be children and go through that experience. So, that is also
Yes.
something that we have seen works. So, peer mentoring is also something that you can definitely try.
Okay, ma'am.
Great.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you, ma'am.
got it. Pratibha,
Hmm.
can we close the breakout room in 2 minutes? Great.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I hope all of you are thinking about inputs, challenges, and what will happen if the interventions are successful. And you have selected one intervention that you want to uh, take back to your classroom. And also expect the challenges that will arise with this and prepare and say what steps would you take to minimize the challenges. If you are done with all the steps, can you give me a thumbs up in the chat for people who are in the main room?
Malvika, I had a couple of questions. Can I ask?
Yes, I will try to answer, but if I cannot, others in the room can also please step in.
Sure,
Yes,
sure.
Shika.
So basically, what I want to understand is that, given the settings in our classrooms currently, where we may or may not be exercising student agency, in the complete form, I would like to understand that what is the step-by-step process to move towards it? Like, what is the first step that we should be taking, which will allow us to build student agency in our classrooms? And then like move from there to what steps. So is there any step by step process which we can follow? And also like depending on the grades that the students are in, because we've been discussing dealing with adolescents is very different, and as compared to dealing with preschoolers or primary kids. So how does this process look different for each segment of students? And the second question that I had was that is there any resource that we can refer to get more understanding and examples, especially from the practical life, to understand this concept more deeply?
Yeah, I think one resource that we use in our organization is continuum of voice. That will, at least for the student voice aspect of it, that will give you a step-by-step process where the first step starts with expression, where you are giving children opportunities to express, where you're asking them, how are you feeling? What do you like? Then there is consultation, where you're asking their inputs on what do you want to learn, right? Maybe through a survey, through an FGD. Then the third one would be, I think, what was that? There is partnership consultation. Then there is partnership and participation, where you are making students participate in their own learning, right? Where they are experimenting with TLMs. Partnership is where students will also take a few classes, saying, ma'am, can you guide me? I'll prepare for this and come. Then there is leadership and advocacy, where leadership is where student advocacy is where students are raising voice about things in the classroom they don't like. Then advocacy is where they are gathering people, uh, what do you call it, where you are actively tackling the cause that you really want to solve, right? As a leader, you take that position of a leader and look at the bigger good for the classroom or the school. So continuum of voice, I can, if you Google it, you will get it. So that is one resource that we use that will give you a stepwise uh, progression. For age appropriate agency, there is a lot of research that is being done. But again, right now, I don't have that much credible resource on that research paper or anything. But if I do, I will give it. What we have done in our organization is, for example, if we have taken self-efficacy, resilience, we think of what will it look like for a first grader. Resilience could be, if I don't know, I will still continue doing it. I will not give up if I don't know these tables. For an eighth grader would be, if I'm facing a challenge in my life or in my classroom, I will see how to figure it out and not give up and not stop coming to school or whatever. So in our context, we have modified these skills, but stepwise to build agency, there is another thing that I have seen is audit of autonomy. So this is for you to see where you stand in terms of autonomy in your classroom or in your organization. So these are a few resources I'll give, but I can't give solutions because again, it is very contextual, very different from what it would look like for me to you. I hope these resources help.
Yes, sure. I think these steps really were very helpful because now I understand the progression that
Yeah.
we have to first allow the students to express themselves, and that can happen, of course, through interventions like morning meetings or just starting with, okay, what are you feeling right now? Some simple things like this, and then consultation in terms of just giving a choice. I don't know choice, but more of a voice that, okay, do we want to learn, let's say, phonics today? So are you all with me? So it's sort of giving a sense of consultation and sense of voice also to the students. I don't know if I've understood this correctly. You can
Yeah.
correct me. Yeah,
Definitely. I think once you read it, you'll also get a clearer idea. And since
sure.
you're
So
coming, sorry.
is this a book that you're talking about?
No,
Continuum
it's
of
just a web page and a rubric that will help
Okay,
you.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Since we are
And
coming towards an end, sorry, Shika. I am so
okay,
sorry I interrupted you again.
okay. I just wanted to ask one more small question. Which is that when we talk about giving choice to our students to learn, I am just trying to imagine it in a practical scenario that if I have a class of 50 children or 40 or even actually 20 children for that matter, what does choice really mean here? Because let's say some students want to learn English or some students want to learn math at a particular point of time. So how do we manage those choices really? If we say ask this general question that, okay, what do you want to learn today or what do you want to study right now? Each student may, say a different thing. Then how do we manage all those choices? I was just trying to imagine it in a
Got
practical
it.
classroom.
So again, choice in the realm of practicality that you can provide. And one effort from your side should be that barrier between practical and true choice is consistently reducing, right? That is something that you can focus on. For example, if instead of asking, do you want to study math or English, you can ask, hey, there is a problem here. Do you want to solve it in your group or do you want to solve it individually? That is how you can start. But importance is building agency is not a destination, it's a journey. So you will have to constantly see how do I reduce that gap day by day, right? And it is important here to stress it is informed choice. It is not that asking students, hey, today do you want to study or do you want to go play in the playground? But do they know the consequence of not studying and going to the playground? Are they then making that informed choice? Right? So taking small steps, exactly. Great. I hope that answers your question,
Yes,
Shikha.
thank you so much.
Yes, I have, again, in the interest of time, I have one last question, and we'll also share Mentimeter. We have understood what student agency is, what are some interventions that will take. But now it is important to reflect on what is one value that you as an educator, you as an adult should have to be able to foster student agency. Because if a student is coming and telling this class is really boring, can I do something else instead? You will not be able to take it as an educator, as an adult. So what is one value that you think you have to build to foster student agency in your classroom? Did everyone understand the question? Have we can share the Mentimeter link. I will also share.
We have shared in the chat.
Yeah, I will. I meant I'll share the screen.
Okay.
This technology makes me a little nervous. So many windows. Okay. Meanwhile, please start putting your inputs. Okay, I love the inputs that are coming in. There is active listening, trust. I think articulation and clarity, which is not really easy for us. Trust, ethical decision, reflection. Yes, you as an educator, I think initially a participant had shared that they reflecting that they are a very teacher-centric classroom, right? So that reflection and acceptance and self-awareness that you as an educator should have. Beautiful courage. Yes, you will have to fight a lot of systemic barriers to make it happen. So that is not an easy journey. Good listening, being patient, yes, creating a sense of belonging, respect. I cannot stress on how important that is. Thank you for bringing that up. I see so many responses that are coming up, guys. Thank you so much for participating. Please continue populating the word cloud. I just hope that you got some time to summarize the learning for yourself and apply it in your context. That was the entire point of work time. And I would have loved to hear what you have come up with, but in the interest of time, we cannot. But for any questions that you might have, I am putting my email ID here so that you all can reach out to me. Yeah. And if you want to share any thoughts on the session, please feel free to do that. If you want to discuss more about it, I'm always available. I love having discussions about this. But yeah, thank you so much. I think Pratibha, you have to share the feedback form. But if anyone has any closing thoughts, meanwhile, while Pratibha is sharing that, anyone wants to share anything, that would also be like we can open the floor for that. I know we are beyond time, so after you after you fill the feedback form, you can feel free to leave. But I will stay for a while if you want to have any more discussion or clear any doubts.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for staying on the call. A heartfelt thank you to you, Malvika, for facilitating such a wonderful session today. We are confident that our participants are walking away with numerous innovative ideas and pedagogical skills that they can bring back to their classroom and implement effectively. Your time and expertise have truly made a difference, and we appreciate your contribution immensely. I would now like to request Deepika to share the link to the feedback form in the chat. Dear participants, please take a moment to fill out the feedback form given in the chat. Please fill the feedback form to download your certificate. For those who do not have a Firki account yet, we have shared a guidance document in the chat also. Please review it to understand how you can access your certificate. Additionally, a link of contact us form has also been shared. Please fill it out if you have any further assistance or need support. Thank you all for being part of this learning experience, and do join us for our next webinar also, which will be happening on 26th. We will now keep our call open for next 5 minutes. Feel free to ask any questions you have. Thank you so much.
So meanwhile, if anyone wants to come off mute, has any question, has anything to share, that is also like we are open for that. Has the link for feedback been shared?
Yeah, it has been shared.
Got it. Great. Thank you so much. So if you are done filling the form, there's no compulsion to stay back. But if you want to have a chat, I'm here for a while.